I'll be having very interesting guests who have personal stories to tell to the world. Welcome to MNB World Talk Show. Hello there, welcome to MNB World Talk Show's fresh new episode. Well, without talking so many things about myself and about the show, let me introduce our guest. Today's guest have built the very first wind power plant in Mongolia. He's one of the bright-minded young leaders in Mongolia, and let's take a look at very short introduction package about our guest. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. So have a seat.
Thank you.
So how are you today?
Very well. Yeah, it's a nice warm winter day.
Thank you for receiving our invitation.
Very well, and thank you for the invitation.
By the way, this is Mongolian tradition for greeting.
Yes.
Greeting. And this is huruk. How do you call it in English?
It's called snuff bottle.
Snuff bottle. Snuff bottle it is. And your one is very fancy one. Huh?
This is actually the first snuff bottle I bought for myself. So
very first one.
The very first one. The first one, of course, my father gave to me, and this one I bought for myself.
For myself. This is really yours, not inherited.
No, not inherited. Yeah. And again, this I believe is a very good tradition, right? Particularly when people meet, and even strangers, and we, so to speak, break ice, right?
Yeah.
In people's conversation.
Tradition. Only you can see, only in Mongolia, right? I don't think in any other world I've seen this tradition for greetings.
I believe so. I think this is something very Mongolian, unique to Mongolia, and this is something that is unique to the way we live, right? Or, particularly, I think in the past when people had to travel distances to meet new people, and again, this has become a tradition of mine, and I carry a bottle every day to work abroad.
This is your image, but very contradicting image. Your business image and this snuff bottle, very traditional, exotic greeting. Very nice. Well, let's talk about your childhood. When you were in the middle school, your parents went to New York on a business trip, and they took you with them, right? What was the experience? It was your first abroad experience.
Yes.
And if you are to share some of very precious moments, memories from the New York.
Well, interestingly, we took the train to Moscow. Right? So I was I was 12 years old, right? And it was the first time that I crossed border, as you said. And so when we went to Moscow, it was the first time that I went to a large city, other than Ulaanbaatar.
Other than Ulaanbaatar,
yeah.
Right.
And so I experienced many new things there, and the kids' store, which was something that is iconic at that time. Right? It was called Detski Mir, and so a very interesting place. And then I got to eat ice cream, the Russian ice cream in the street.
Was it your first time eating ice cream?
No.
But Russian ice cream.
Okay, right? Yeah, which is also quite iconic because you go to the so-called Red Square, right? And then you experience those things for the first time in your life. And then, of course, we went on a plane to fly to Paris. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So
was it a trip or business trip? I mean,
No, this was my family moving, right? My parents moving to work in New York for the Mongolian mission to the United Nations. Right? So my parents worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at that time, so they were posted to work there, and of course my sister and I followed them, and so we all went, and so we went to Moscow, Paris, and then finally to New York. So after a long plane trip, and so yeah, it was interesting because back then, for example, I never saw a limousine in my life. When I first landed at the airport in New York, the JFK airport, and so we were waiting for the people to come and pick us up. So first I saw a long car, right? And for a 12-year-old boy, wow, that was an experience.
That was like very cool. What is this?
Right. And the other thing I remember most is when I went to the restroom, right?
Right.
And there was no, how to speak, valve to open the water, right? So I was trying to figure out. It was 1990, so it was still very rare at that time. So, and then finally, I moved my arms, and then there was water coming down. So that was also interesting.
So yeah, by the time Mongolia has the socialist things and very old one. Wow.
Yeah, so
interesting stuff.
Yeah, but
very small, but very precise and interesting.
Yes, and again, I do have some vivid memories of that time. And the good thing is we went to an American school, right? My sister and I at that time, and then as a result, we learned to speak English well, and hence I'm speaking to you.
Yes, today, here it is, here we are. You've graduated from George Washington University, you worked in Washington DC for a while, then you moved to Asian Development Bank.
Yes.
And you stayed at the Asian Development, ADB, for quite a long time.
Yeah, close to 7 years.
What did you learn? Close to 7 years. What did you learn from that experience?
Well, when I finished grad school at GW, the George Washington University, I was working for an organization in the field of international development. Right? So that was working with the countries in particularly South and Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia.
Yeah, and the job was to help American technologies in energy and water, right, and environment to be transferred to those countries. So it was an interesting experience because I was doing it for the first time, right? And then I followed that work to work at the Asian Development Bank, which is an international financial organization which helps countries develop, right? Which helps countries improve social as well as hard infrastructure. So Asian Development Bank is a unique organization because it has, I think nowadays, close to 70 members, right? 70 different countries.
70 different countries are included in that.
Yes, and which means that it also has staff from those countries. So you have 70 different countries, 70 different traditions, 70 different nationalities working in one place.
In one place.
Yes. So
the place you worked at, it was in Manila.
Yeah,
Manila office.
Yeah, Manila is the headquarters for the Asian Development Bank. So it was established there back in 1966, I believe, and so it was. I was young in my career, right? I was 25 years old. I was. At that time, I think I was the youngest staff to join ADB.
One of the youngest?
Yeah, I think the youngest, right?
The youngest!
So it was an interesting experience because I learned a lot through those years, as you said. I learned to work in a large bureaucracy, but bureaucracy I mean in a good sense because a lot of people think bureaucracy is bad, but bureaucracy is a system, effectively, right? A system that allows different people to work together and deliver a good outcome, right?
Good result.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, whether it's a project, a power plant, whether it's something that helps school children, right? So I learned to work in a very organized environment that was designed, again, to help so-called developing countries, right? To stabilize their economies and to invest in infrastructure, and then of course to increase their living standards, so that they can, the people in those countries can have better jobs, better salaries, and then of course enjoy a good quality life.
Was it only career, or was there any humanity, like humane part of you involved, like helping, thinking about helping other countries to develop?
Of course.
Because I get that sense from your...
Of course. I somehow transitioned into working in a sector called energy, right? So of course I'm not an engineer, right? And before I started working for the bank, I thought electricity came from a socket, right?
Just there.
Yeah, that's where power came from. But I started working in that area, and then I started working in very challenging regions, right? Pakistan, Afghanistan, or Tajikistan, for example, right? Where electricity supply is scarce in some of these places. And I'll give you an example. In Tajikistan, I was working on a project where I had to build micro hydro power plants, right? Very small scale hydro power plants to light up a village that was very remote, up in the mountains, right? So interesting experience, because I was giving effectively light to those people.
To one village?
Yeah, to a village, and those people saw me as a hope, right? When I first visited them. And I still have the memory of people when I came out of the car after a long ride. They treated me as almost as a king. Right?
Wow, you were welcomed like an angelic figure, a celebrity.
Yeah, and so that means that I have lots of responsibility, right? Meaning that I need to deliver that project because these people need it. And I think that's where this international development field is both, as you said, career-wise it's very interesting, but also from a personal perspective, right? It's it can be very touching as well. Yeah.
And satisfying. When you help people, you feel that pleasure.
Well, yes. If you basically do a project and that project is built, right? Whether it's a power plant or a substation, right, or a transmission line, and then when electricity flows through that and people at home get the light, then yes, it could be quite satisfying. Yeah.
Through our talk show, we will bring you entertaining personal talks with certain individuals. These individuals will be divided in two categories. Number 1 is I Am Mongolian. In this category, guests will be proud Mongolians who have stories to tell to the world. Number 2 is I Love Mongolia. Through these talks, we will introduce expats and non-Mongolians who are related to Mongolia one way or another. Heartfelt stories of their love affair with Mongolia, the land of blue sky.
Mongolia has a potential to develop up to 200 gigawatts of wind energy and then 1.2 terawatts of solar energy. Right? So that's a lot of potential that we have. And if we are able to build solar and wind farms which are very environmentally friendly, clean, and modern technology in Mongolia, and then if we are able to open the markets by putting cross-border transmission lines into China and Russia and be able to export further into Japan and Korea, I think that's going to really change the lives of Mongolian people further. Right? So if you look at the history of Mongolia in the last 25 years, technology, that's information technology as well as energy technology, have really transformed our lives. And my business wants to get that into the next stage, where Mongolia is able to export clean power into the regional market. The other job that I have is I'm the chairman of the Business Council of Mongolia. And the Business Council comprises of 250 leading companies in Mongolia. And it's, I think, the most active business organization in the country. And what we try to do is two things. Number one, we are helping our members to increase business by way of providing them a platform to share the latest information so that they can make better and informed decisions and they can increase their revenues. And the second is we are helping our companies to deliver their voices to the public as well as to the government in terms of good economic policy. Right? Mongolia needs to have good policies in the areas of investment, in the areas of attracting more investors into Mongolia in the infrastructure and mining sectors. We meet with each other, we discuss our challenges and problems, and based on that we come up with certain recommendations for fixing it.
Possible solutions.
Yes, and then we deliver it to people as well as government, to hoping that again they will take those into consideration, right? So, but in order to do that, you have to be organized, right? Without organization, without the capacity to do those things, you are unable to service your members' needs well. So what we are trying to do is we are working on improving the association in terms of, again, the various services that we provide. And we have just appointed a new board of directors, right? And with that, we are looking at 2019 as a very important year because a lot of important policy decisions need to be made this year. Therefore, the business community wants to contribute to those decisions, right? So that government makes decisions based on the views of the taxpayer, as well as the tax collector, right? Not just the tax collector itself.
Not just the government side, but they have to look at from the other side.
And I think then the informed decisions are made, and informed decisions means that you are able to understand the challenges and the context, and then of course apply various tools to fix those challenges, and then hoping that we'll all become better in terms of moving forward.
Right. You have successfully completed the very first wind power plant in Mongolia, and you could raise 120 million USD on that project. What happens behind the closed doors? Like, what happens during those? I mean, how do you get investment that much, especially on these mega projects?
Well, first of all, I think...
How do you work on that?
I think it's the experience that led to it, right? Although we're still very young, as I said, I spent close to 7 years in working for the development bank in the field of energy project finance, and then I also worked back in the US for close to 6 years, right? So again, the 12 years or the 13 years of experience working in the international field, right, and dealing with multiple projects gave me that experience to help me do the same thing back here in Mongolia. And so without it, I would probably have been lost.
Well, I mean, experience, most certainly it helped you, but I want my audience to know what happens during the process. Do you call everybody? Do you do so many meetings? Do you fly around the countries?
Everything, right?
Everything.
When you are managing a project, you have to be able to understand all aspects that are happening, right?
Different perspectives,
Yeah,
aspects.
yeah. So it could be you are in London talking to investors and banks. So you are in a very financial environment, right? So you have to speak a certain language, and you have to abide by certain standards. You could be out in ger of a herder, right? Trying to explain to that family why wind farm, renewable energy is beneficial to their life, right? So quite a large extreme, right? You could be out in the field working with engineers and construction workers, right? Trying to put together the foundation for the wind turbine. And or you could be out talking with government officials in terms of making them understand the new standards, right? The new regulatory requirements that are required so that these types of projects can be built in Mongolia. And then of course you spend a lot of time not only in formal circumstances but also building relationships. I think that's very important for any business and any project, right? So you spend a lot of time drinking coffee and or drinking alcohol and eating lots of
different kind of foods.
food with people, right?
And drinking.
Yes. Yeah,
You have to be drinking.
Yeah, so you have to sacrifice certain parts of your body
Yeah, you have to drink on those
to do those things, right? And, like I used, as you said, I used to work in Central Asia, right? So Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and in these countries, again, relationships also are very important, as again with any other place. And then to build those relationships, sometimes you have to be able to do certain things, right? Yeah. And me being a Mongolian and me also being able to speak Russian, I went to Russian school when I was younger, right? So have helped me a lot, and also the ability to listen and to your partners, and then to ability to communicate, right? And also to have ability to drink vodka. So
the vodka, one of the most important parts, especially in Asian culture. You know, not only Mongolians do that, but
no, I think it's a very universal thing, right? You have certain ways to build trust. And one of it is, of course, being in a relaxed environment, right? To be able to communicate with each other, not only business, but beyond that. Right?
But beyond that, you have to build very personal, close relationships in order to business, right?
Yeah.
It's all about personal relationships.
What you see here is Mongolia's first wind farm, which I was very fortunate to be involved with in terms of leading the team that has structured the financing and built this project back in 2010 and 13. And this is a very unique project because it was first of its kind, the first wind farm to be built in Mongolia, the first private investment in the energy sector in Mongolia, the first power plant to be connected to the system in over 30 years. And I'm blessed with the opportunity to work with many special people. I think at the peak back in 2011, 12, and 13, there were about 600 people working during the construction of this power plant, which is 50 megawatts big, and it's a $120 million investment, right? And so 600 people have worked on this. Over 20 nationalities were involved in building this project, and we have worked with many interesting people, the best engineers in Mongolia, and as a result, now the customers who are connected to the central energy grid are able to use clean power in their homes. About 80,000 homes are customers of this power plant today, and the most important thing is it saves lots of water, right? About 1.6 million tons of water, fresh water, is being saved because wind power plants don't require any water to operate. Most importantly, this project has been the beginning of Mongolia setting foot into the Asia supergrid, where we are building ourselves so that in few years' time we can export clean power to our neighbors, our customers in China, in Russia, in Japan and Koreas.
So you are also, you have so many hats. You're also a member of Art Council of
Yes.
Mongolia's board.
Mhm.
But let's talk about art. What do you get from art? Why are you there?
We have a lot of chaos, we have lots of frustration, right, in our lives today, right? And I think it's normal everywhere in the world, right?
Right.
But when you have something that you can enjoy, right, or you can watch or listen to, then I think it helps you be a better person, right? And for children, I think if you develop the arts and if you make sure that people watch and read and listen, then it helps them grow up to be a complete kind of human being, right?
So without art, it's very hard to be a complete human being.
Yeah, I mean,
That's your perspective.
yeah, I think so, because it gives you a certain perspective that is natural, right? A certain
natural.
perspective that will help you relax, but also think, right, and be more creative.
Be more creative. Well, my last question, traditional question: are you proud Mongolian?
Of course I am.
Of course I am. Okay, what's the of course part? What are you proud being Mongolian?
Well, we are a small
Try to be
country.
specific.
We are a small country, right? And we need to survive in an environment where it's very competitive, right? So we are surrounded by two large neighbors, right? And we are surrounded by large economies, right? And we need to be better in what we do every day, right? And as a Mongolian citizen, I have to be part of that, right? So my contribution will help that, and I know that it does, right? So, yeah, which means that you have to be both, of course you can be proud, but also a very accountable and responsible citizen, because what you do matters, right, for this country, right? And everybody's actions matter for this country and for its well-being.
Well, I have to ask this. I want to ask this. What kind of future do you want to leave behind to your children, if I ask? And please come up with 3 words.
Something that people can trust.
Okay,
right?
trust, one word.
Something that people can enjoy.
Okay, enjoyable.
And something that people can look forward to.
Can I say hope? Hopeful?
Better than hopeful, yeah. Be confident in the future. Right?
Okay, confidence.
Yeah.
So trustful, enjoyable, confident future you want to leave behind.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I wish you good health and good luck.
Good to see you, man. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, this was Mr. Byambasaihan. We will see you with our next episode next week. Bye-bye.